sorry for Rudy Giuliani, almost pity for the fact that these attacks are coming. The White House trying to show that they think these were low attacks. But I pressed Ernest on the fact that back in 2008, you'll remember then candidate and then Senator Obama went after then President George W. Bush, called him unpatriotic on the issue of adding to the national debt and leaving debt for future generations. Listen. You said I feel sorry for Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, I do. I do feel sorry for him.
You feel sorry, but does the president have any regrets, regardless of what Giuliani said? As a candidate, Senator Obama said that President Bush was unpatriotic. I see a difference from Giuliani because he's talking about an issue, but nonetheless questioning the patriotism of the President of the United States.
Yeah. I think that what the President was doing was he was questioning the specific wisdom of that decision and questioning whether or not that was in the best interest of the country.
That's unwise. He said that's unpatriotic.
Right. But again, he was talking about that. He was not talking about a person.
So you see, they were trying to change that. The president back then, as a senator, was trying to question President Bush's wisdom. That's not actually what he said. Interesting, because the fight back then in 2008 was President Bush adding some $4 trillion to the national debt while he was in office. This president has now added about double that. Sean?
That was a checkmate moment, if you ask me, because he did say that's irresponsible, that's unpatriotic, and he was talking directly about President Bush. He mentioned Bush in that comment. Ed Henry at the White House tonight. Thank you. And with Rudy Giuliani's comment sparking controversy, many are calling on America's mayor to apologize, but does the mayor really have a point? Let's watch this.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
America, like every other nation, has made mistakes and has its flaws. In America, there's a failure to appreciate Europe's leading role in the world. There have been times where America has shown arrogance.
The struggle for women's equality continues in many aspects of American life. There is a long history in this country of African Americans and Latinos being stopped by law enforcement disproportionately. And that's just a fact.
I realize that America's critics will be quick to point out that at times we too have failed to live up to our ideals, that America has plenty of problems within its own borders. This is true. So yes, we have our own racial and ethnic tensions.
Our most costly mistakes came not from our restraint, but from our willingness to rush into military adventures. In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, we did some things that were wrong. We tortured some folks. We did some things that were contrary to our values.
Tortured folks, contrary to our values. Pretty negative rhetoric from our 44th president. So is it possible to love something that you fundamentally want to change? Here to respond, the man himself, America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, you seem not at all fazed. You were laughing during the montage.
Well, I'm only laughing because I actually had forgotten how far he went in criticizing America. First of all, let me make it clear, as I did from the very beginning, I'm not questioning his patriotism, as he did with President Bush. I believe you can be a critic and a patriot at the same time. We've had many of those. My situation is one of personal disappointment that President Obama, who had a great story to tell about a young man with a lot of issues, like all of us have had, but in some cases his were worse, made it in America. That's the rhetoric around which Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton, the man from Hope, and the cowboy riding from, out on the clouds. That's the way in which they made us feel like we're part of a great country. We're part of a country with an unlimited, boundless future, particularly Reagan. Clinton didn't quite have that talent. And they knew how to lift our spirits. And then after having gotten us to feel good about ourselves, they could deliver certain criticisms, not the same that he's doing, which are constant. The case of President Obama, and to me, this is a source of great personal disappointment because even as a Democrat, I had expected that first part out of him. What he does is he emphasizes our weaknesses, our failures, our sometimes perceived failures that he's, I believe, making up. And that's the headline. And then when he does mention a few good things about America, it's the footnote. I have not encountered an American president like that in my lifetime, whether it's Truman, a Democrat, or Reagan, a Republican. So it's a matter of personal disappointment in the fact that he doesn't elevate my
Here's a question.
country. He doesn't evoke, therefore, in me. He may in others, but he doesn't invoke in me the sense that he loves this country when you do it that way.
If you really love somebody, let's just say somebody, do you fundamentally want to transform them? Maybe there's certain things about them you don't like, but do you want to fundamentally, that's a pretty profound statement.
Here's what I can't do. I can't psychoanalyze, I can't look into his head. He may love America, I don't know, in his own way. When I listen to his language, I hear language of a man who is never talking about the greatness of America, the boundless possibilities of America, what we can do with oil, what we can do with fracking, what we can do in terms of the growth of our economy, how we can bring people out of poverty in a positive way. All I hear mostly are criticisms and then occasional modest solutions to those criticisms. So he's not a cheerleader for America. He's a critic. It's as if he were a movie critic as opposed to the guy acting in the movie.
You know, it's interesting. Kevin Williamson is going to join us in the next segment, a writer for National Review Online. Actually had a headline today, Rudy's right, Barack Obama doesn't even like America. I want to ask you this. We're going to play in the next segment his friends. Reverend Wright, this is personal for you. The Sunday after 9/11, that's when he said, GD America. America's chickens have come home to roost.
Do you think I forget that, Sean?
No, I, don't, I know you don't forget.
Do you think I will ever forget that?
Well, my point. This was the Sunday after 9/11.
I lost 3,000 people and 10 of my best friends, and you lost some of yours.
I lost some of my best friends.
You think I'm going to forget a minister
Never.
going up on the pulpit and saying that, and that church not walking out?
Here is the question. Father Flager, Reverend Wright, I know I made a big deal of Bill Ayers and people criticize me for it. He's an admitted domestic terrorist. Who hangs out with a guy like that?
Let's make clear now, we're talking about Ayers, not President
Bill Ayers.
Obama.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he started his political career in Ayers' home, sat on boards with him, gave speeches with him, clearly had a relationship with him. I'm not going to be friends with an unrepentant terrorist, are you?
Absolutely not.
What does that tell us about him?
Absolutely not. So your background tells you everything about all of us. I don't know how well you and I can analyze his background or his psyche. Here's what we can analyze: his words and his actions. He will not use the word Islamic terrorism when it is now beyond absurd that he's not using it.
Jobs program.
You have got to step back and say, what's going on? Christians are slaughtered. What American president in the last century wouldn't have held a press conference to condemn the slaughter of prisoners? Jewish people are killed because they're Jewish in the name of Islam, and he doesn't stand up and hold a press conference. So what I'm judging, I'm not judging his psyche. I don't know if I'm judging his background. What I'm judging is the things that he says, the policies that he has, and the things that he does. And many of them add up, to me, to someone who does not seem to love this country the way other presidents did.
Did you watch the 21 Christians beheaded, the 5-minute video? I did.
I did not watch the video of their being beheaded. I saw them all lined
up. Okay. I watched the whole thing.
I cannot tell you, it probably took me back to my Catholic
it's horrible.
Grammar school classes with the stories of the saints and the martyrs. And
they were martyred. And then you have, for example, I watch the way King Abdullah is responding in Jordan. I was never his biggest fan, but I respect what he's doing now, fighting ISIS after the Jordanian pilot was burned, and I saw that video. And then I think of General Assisi after the 21 Coptic Christians beheaded, how he's responding with fierceness. Then I think of the president, James Foley. He gives a statement, and 30 seconds later, he's on a golf course. There's something wrong with that. There's something missing here.
I agree when we look at the words and the actions, even more than I remembered. That's why I was reacting when you had your montage on. The words and the actions suggest someone who doesn't have the kind of affection for this country that prior presidents had. I just don't think you sit back and watch these things without reacting, and reacting strongly. Also, this whole not saying Islamic terrorism, extremism, is going to drive away Islamic countries. Egypt says it.
Jordan says
Jordan says it.
UAE is now saying it.
I'm leaving for Dubai tonight.
Yeah.
The UAE asked the U.S. for support so they could bomb the Syrians.
They didn't get it.
We wouldn't give them support. What we're doing is we're appealing to the wrong allies. We're appealing to Iran instead of appealing to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, and not to mention Israel, who we have sold out.
Agreed.
And I believe that Netanyahu has every right to come here and make the case for his country, because he cannot, I don't care what he says, and he has to be diplomatic, but he can't count on the President of the United States.
This is a bad deal for Israel.
Sure. This is the president who drew 12 lines in the sand and, got pushed off each one of them until they became yellow.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. All right, when we come back, coming up